Welcome back to the All I Ever Wanted podcast. Today, by popular demand, because you had a few questions last time we had Connor on, we've brought him back. But today, we're at Maserati Alfa Romeo of Edmonton. They have asked us to do anything automotive here, so huge shout out to them. Not only do they got beautiful cars, which we'll do, producer Mac's gonna nicely do some pans on a few of the vehicles. There's something special out back right now, which I think you're gonna like. But without further ado, we'll let our guest introduce himself again.
Thank you very much, Chris. So as Chris said, my name's Connor. I run a website called Spec-Investor.com. I run a weekly newsletter. It's a massive cost of $3.99. If you want to get on that, I share all sorts of information in the car world, what stuff's trading for, auction stats, speculation on future investments, all sorts of stuff. So if you like cars, if you want to learn more about cars, and if you want to just kind of take a deeper dive into that side of investing, feel free to, the link will be in the description here. You can click that and sign up. Yeah, we'll
make sure producer Mac puts that in. But something like this, for that minimal cost, I like it because it's not even if you're not looking at cars as investments, but it's a good way to view future purchases as well. And if you like cars and you got cool pictures, like it's literally loaded up for you, so you don't have to go through a bunch of crap. So I'm not plugging his stuff, but it's nice to be able to see what someone who looks at the world differently. What do we keep talking about? Mindset. So if you can get behind the eyes of someone who views the world's automotive industry as an investment, it'll start changing the way you think.
Absolutely. Yeah, appreciate it. So I'm really excited to be here today because obviously we had a couple comments from the last episode. I know one of the big questions that we had is a lot of the cars that we spoke about on the last scene was mostly the really high-end stuff.
Yeah, starting at $400,000 or $500K purchase price.
Exactly, getting into the stratosphere essentially of investments, and kind of getting into the ultra high-end stuff, which we can definitely go more in depth on. There's a lot of crazy stories, a lot of insane collections.
Yeah.
But I think for the value sake of your audience, it's going to make the most sense to talk about some vehicles that you can get into at a lower cost point. Probably more in that six-figure range max, or in that
entry-level six figures. So let's say probably between the 60 and 160 range more of you're looking at?
For sure. Absolutely. Okay. I think there's a lot of units in that price range that you can get into, even today at a relatively affordable price, that are still going to appreciate. You might not see that 10x return or going into the million range.
Yeah.
But you're definitely able to buy a car, drive it a few years, and not lose a penny. And I have a few friends of mine that have actually been able to do that. So
that is a real beauty, because in most people's lives, their automobile is going to be the greatest appreciating asset that they're ever going to acquire. And what's funny is people go back and they do it every time. They're going to get a brand new vehicle, roll over their debt, do all that kind of stuff. And they don't even realize that they're constantly, for decades, putting money into something that will never return even a quarter of what they're paying into. So looking at it differently and saying, man, if I could just drive it for 3-4 years and break even, like on your insurance payments, like you factor that in. If your insurance is a couple grand a year, by 3-4 years, you got to put fuel in, which is kind of a consumable with anything, so you don't really have to worry about it.
Fuel doesn't really count. Same as tires, brakes.
But if you can get out of it 10 grand more than you paid for it, so you actually truly break even, you just got to drive something cool for free.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
And I like free much better than losing money.
Absolutely. That's a huge win in itself. I think that's something that a lot of people may discredit, or say, I got to make a return, got to see some crazy investment opportunity. But no, you know what? If you can still just drive the dang car for 2 or 3 years and get out of it at no extra cost, then you did exceptionally well. And I think nowadays, more than ever, there's a lot of makes and models that probably 5 or 10 years ago you couldn't as easily do that with. And I think the obvious go-to example is probably the R8 as a really smart purchase.
I've always liked them. Yeah. I think having them in Avengers in Iron Man 1 was kind of a real smart move on Audi's point. Yeah.
Audi absolutely killed it. I didn't realize though, and I don't know if this is entirely true, but I heard this as a rumor when I worked in the automotive industry, that the R8 was used in the 50 Shades franchise and was advertised towards women. But I figured you might have some more information on that.
Yeah, because that's the market I'd go for. I do love the R8 for its simplicity, its daily drivability. I would not know anything about putting it into a movie that's based on people that find that kind of stuff. What was the point? Where were we going with this?
We're talking about the R8.
I need some quiet time. Medic?
No, that's funny. But yeah, like Audi absolutely killed the marketing on that car. And they released it with a lot of good powertrains, a lot of good drivetrains. I mean, you could get the gated and the S-tronic in both the V8 and the V10. They didn't come out with the V10. The V10 was a bit of an afterthought, I think, because of the Gallardo. But But the V8's a really good powertrain. It's actually one of the better V8s Audi produced. It's the four valve 4 liter. And those are really reliable. Same as the V10s. So the R8 makes a lot of sense because you can get into it. You can still get into S-tronic cars for a decent price. The V10 is super reliable. The V8 is super reliable. If you do your servicing and whatnot, you don't try and tune it or mess with it. And the one comment I heard about the R8 that really stuck out to me, I can't remember who said it, but I find that R8s, when they're on the road, you see them. Like, you see it drive by and you're like, oh yeah, that's a nice R8. But if you're going through a parking lot, they just vanish, especially if they're in a neutral color.
Absolutely.
You don't
Which
notice
they
them.
are. What do they come in? Gray with silver, all silver, black with some silver, or all black. Now, that's what the first gens came out. And I kind of like the fact that you're right. It was almost like a squish G... TT, not GT. And I'm like, wow, you're right. They don't stand out as far as, someone getting jealous and maybe doing something stupid to it in a parking lot. You don't look pretentious like someone, 300 or 400K. I hate that guy. It just looks subtle. You can get into it with a suit, get into it in jeans, whatever.
Absolutely.
And it's quick and it's reliable. And that's what I loved about it, because even getting into... It was even more comfortable than getting into my Porsches. Definitely more comfortable than getting into my Ferraris, because you're sitting on the ground. So, ladies, an R8 is a good idea if you wear dresses.
That's fair. There you go. Top tip.
The top tip. Yeah. Unless you like social media attention.
Yes.
Go Brittany. And Kim. And pretty much everybody else that needs a bit of attention in the world.
Well, that's why they've got the LaFerrari. I think the Kardashians. They got a black Aperta. Do they? Yeah, it's a very nice spec. But I don't want to...
I know Ferrari told them they don't get to buy any more Ferraris.
Is that a fact?
Yes, they told them this because they don't take care of them. Kind of like Bieber. He got a Liberty Walk on his blue 488.
I remember. No,
458.
I think it was a 458.
Yeah, and they basically said, nope, you don't get to use it anymore because you leave it all over town and forget where it is. Yep. And you don't maintain it, and you make us look bad. And the same with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
But whatever. I'm sure they'll find a buyer.
I love Ferrari for that. I think that mindset of owning and operating a business where you fire your customers more than you hire them is going to have more sustainability in the future.
That's why their vehicles always go up.
Exactly.
They change hands, the collectible ones, but realistically, every time one's crashed, it's off the road. There's less. They're not going to be like, oh, we'll just pump out another 1,200 of them. No, there's one less. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, we keep getting off topic because I love the world of exotics and stuff like that, and it's kind of funny how the dynamics go back and forth. But we are talking about investing, and Ferrari invests itself in its customers. It vets you. Don't believe that regardless of your money, you can walk in and get one of their hypercars. You can't. In order to get one of their higher mid-range cars, you have to own certain specs of different vehicles before that. Like, you can't just go buy a LaFerrari or anything like that. You have to have several cars, and even just to get like a Pista.
Oh yeah, and I think
our friend's TDF, I think he needed four previous cars to own it. And I think he had to get the FF as well.
Yeah, well, basically what I've heard, and you probably know more because obviously you've been a customer, but I've heard that depending on where you're shopping and the dealer connections, because depending on who you're buying from, you're going to get different offers. It doesn't. If you wanted a LaFerrari when they came out, it doesn't matter if you go to Ferrari with 20 million. The sticker on the car is like what, 1.5? I think it was under 2 million.
They started at 1.2, but I don't think anything ever left the factory without an added option. So 1.5, 1.6 is a good guess.
But if you were like, let's say, a sheik that had never owned a Ferrari for whatever reason, and you wanted to strike Ferrari a check for 20 million, they would just turn you away. They'd say, no, you know what? You haven't purchased anything from us. We don't care about your money. And that's why that philosophy is so
Yeah.
great with them. I've heard though that to get in, you can either get cars at auction, which is also kind of risky, but that going to the dealership, building that relationship, and then being invited to purchase something that's just in their pre-owned inventory is typically the first step.
Yeah, you have to get on the radar as good customers. Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
And that may sound so pretentious, but if you buy something like that, wouldn't you like the value kept up? Don't you want to not see douchebags in your brand giving you a bad name, devaluing your investment? Like, to me, that just makes sense. But I think people need to understand that the right brands always look after their own
Absolutely.
customers and as
They put them
investments.
first.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as much as they're hard asses over at Ferrari, good on you guys.
And they don't
'Cause that's
bend.
they do not bend. There's more cease and desist coming out of the Ferrari head office than most companies in the world.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love hearing it.
And you know what's funny? Here in Alberta, you didn't hear this from me, but my uncle works in insurance, and I know for a fact that of every, let's just say, in 10 Ferrari owners, I believe it's 2 or 3 are on a police most wanted list, so to speak. And from Lamborghini, it's more so in the 8 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
So there's, the clientele that are attracted by the brands is very different for obvious reasons.
But that's also good for Lamborghini owners because with those people crashing them so often, values go up.
That's right.
If you have one of the few remaining that haven't lit on fire. Oh, wait. That was my outside voice. Sorry, Lambo. I do like a few of your vehicles, but I got to be a Ferrari fan, so I'm going to take shots whenever I can.
That's right. Yeah, I'm the same way. Lamborghini killed a few models, but I can't side with them. If I had to pick a company, I'd always go Ferrari.
I will admit out loud, and I had to put this in the group chat a couple days ago, that I was embarrassed by the fact that I love the GT series Huracans, the STOs, the Evos, all that kind of stuff in full naked carbon. Oh,
it's beautiful.
I hate, seriously, I need to sit down and get some quiet time after looking at one of those. And if you've ever heard them in real life, oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Straight pipe V10.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Okay, well, here's one for you for back to the 100K mark.
Oh, because we had a subscriber who asked a question, right?
Yes. So, yeah, well, kind of more so in the general realm of under that 100K, what's a good investment? I had a question for you regarding the R35. Is it a supercar? In your opinion?
No question is actually as direct as it sounds. What are you asking? What end of the supercar does it elicit emotion like an Italian car does? Does it have the numbers? Because if you're just going numbers, like skid pad, acceleration, tunability, it is a supercar because it can do things that most regular cars that aren't supercars can. Does it make my jeans get tighter? Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. They don't sound great. They don't. Other than the feeling of and I've tracked one. Don't get me wrong. I know what they can do, but it didn't really do much for me other than have more get up and go down the straightaways than my Evo 10 did, which is what I actually took time attack. So in that comparison, it doesn't make me feel like it's a supercar. But all the numbers state that it is. So I can't in my opinion, I would say no.
See, and I think it's the same thing as a Tesla. On paper, that thing rocks. Is it exciting in real life? Not particularly. I mean, the G-forces are there, but there's no connection to it. There's no, I don't want to say passion, but you can
you can say it.
You can just tell, those cars are not
put it this way.
for that.
If you're in bed with whoever it is
go.
you want to be in bed with, and they're not making any noise, you lose an interest pretty quick, aren't you?
It's pretty true. That's actually a good comparison.
Elon, we love you, but I can't get excited about.
It's a toaster with wheels. Yeah, I'm sorry.
At least a toaster will make you toast.
It's true. It's true.
So
Yeah, I'm not a Tesla fan, but I asked about the R35 because I've personally dealt with a lot of people in the past. I've always wanted one as a dream car, and that's great. It's a cool car to aspire to own, but everyone I've talked to that has owned them, driven them, rented them, has said that they are incredibly boring in traffic, incredibly boring to just take around town unless you're pushing it to the absolute limit. And furthermore, they do have a lot of service issues, transmission problems, and I just don't see them as a good investment.
But that was the pre-11s, I believe, for the transmission.
They did fix it.
Yeah. So, in all fairness, we have to be. Everything has to go through its courses to get. They didn't make a R chassis for 7 or 8 years between end of 08 to 11. They did have transmission problems because they had a very powerful powertrain, and they were just learning, because everybody wanted to get those numbers that they had on the skid pad. So everybody turned off the traction control or did put on that launch control thing, which voids your warranty. This is where my issue was. They bragged about numbers that they could get on a quarter mile by doing a specific thing to the car. But if you buy it and then take it to the drag strip and do exactly what they did to get those numbers that they're bragging to you to sell you the car, the moment you hit that button and get it into launch control mode, you void your warranty, and it's registered in the ECU that you did that. It was kind of like how Subaru voided your warranty if you took your vehicles off-road, but they put billions of dollars into a rally program to sell you the car.
Yeah, that's fair.
But if you even so much as... I knew friends that didn't get warranty work because they took the car out autocrossing. I'm sorry, Subaru, but if your engines blow up in 20,000 kilometers because they went autocrossing, that's an engine problem. Because we've taken everything, even just autocrossing, and the engines last longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, like the STI powertrain, I don't even want to get into it because I did own one at one point, and it's just head gaskets. I don't care what people say. I had head gaskets go on mine. Rod bearings, they're junk.
Unequal length headers.
Correct. Lots of problems.
Lots of problems.
Don't buy a Subaru. Just don't buy a Subaru.
So you wouldn't invest in a Subaru?
No, I wouldn't. Maybe perhaps a Colin McRae edition rare rally car of the yesteryear. I feel like those would go
We had
up.
a friend who bought one of his Cosworth Escorts.
That's pretty cool.
Bought it all the way from England. It's got McRae written in the seats and everything.
Wow.
When you can get an actual Cosy, that's cool. But I don't think I would be purchasing. No,
nothing like that. But back onto the subject, because it's very easy to
we can do this all day.
I know. I was thinking too, aside from the R8 and maybe like you hear the R35 tossed out as like kind of a budget supercar. I think the R35 actually is a budget supercar.
What was exactly the question? What would you buy in the 5 figures, or like
like mid to high 5 figures?
Fun or as an investment? The only one I can actually think of, and it's coincidental that we're here at Maserati Alfa Romeo, is the 4C. I've had a few friends pick them up over the last 2 years, and they've all gone up in value. Like they I don't remember what the MSRP on them was. I think it was like 85, 86. Within 3 years, 4 years, they kind of came down into the 50s. I did see some in the 50s. I had seen some high kilometer ones that were even like 49. But now the market's come back up, and now they're worth high 70s, low 80s for a low kilometer one. So if I had to pick something under 100K, to me that is the ideal car. When you're talking about supercar feeling,
absolutely,
it revs, it accelerates,
like
it brakes, exactly, because it's light. And if you want to know what the car is, producer Matt can put you a link to when we test drove one. It does everything right because it starts out as light as possible. It's a full carbon car for under $100,000. That in itself will hold its value because nothing else in the 5 figures is full carbon, is it?
I'm really racking my head here. I can't think of anything. But and full carbon means a lot of things. It means lightweight. It means very stable, sturdy. It also means incredibly safe, like a carbon tub, which is what that car is. Very safe. That's what McLarens are all built like. But Alfa Romeo is such a fascinating brand because they really do exemplify driving from that pure emotional and completely irrational standpoint. Like their cars have very little functionality in the real world. I mean, you could literally point at everything that they make. There's another company that makes it better, but it just doesn't have the charm. I don't know how to explain it. Alfa Romeo, they've got They've made so many iconic cars over the years.
They have a great Formula One history as well.
They have a fantastic Formula One history. They have a fantastic rally history. They have a fantastic, pretty much everything history.
And they brought on my boy Valtteri after Mercedes decided he wasn't valuable.
Yeah, he didn't simp for Lewis hard enough.
Ooh,
so.
Ooh, did you say that out loud?
Yeah, I might have slipped out there, but man, it's good. He's going to do well with that team, I feel.
Yeah.
But
and they were smart enough to bring on Kimi. Which, wow.
For the short amount
of
time.
They make all the right moves at every level. I do love Alpha.
But I really can't argue with the 4C. I think it's such a great platform. You got the 4-cylinder turbo. I think they're only dual clutch. Like, you can't get a stick, right? Yeah. But that's okay. They're pretty spacious for like how big
I fit in there.
Yeah, I know.
That says a lot.
They are small.
I couldn't speak for tall people, but I can tell you I'm 3 feet wide and I fit in there.
Yeah, and that says a lot. So obviously they've gone a long way with regards to their design and their research. But I think that's a great example. If I had to put a guess on something that would be like a very safe 5-figure investment, and I can't really give a super specific example, but it would be any domestic muscle car that's one of those like heritage editions. Like I know that like Shelby will come out with their special series 500, or they'll have the Hertz edition 350s.
Can you get those in the 5 figures anymore? Because I thought a GT 500 was like 130 now.
Well, for a brand new one, I'm talking like maybe.
Oh, you're even
like
talking so more used market as well.
Yeah, used market, absolutely. I mean, that's the trick, is to get those like.
Get them before they come back up.
100%. Yeah. I think that's the.
So
play.
He's talking about knowing or being able to identify before the swing comes back up.
Yeah.
This is very important, because if you were one of those people that caught the Mark IV Supra on the way up, and I've had a few of those, you guys know that, the R32 GTRs, had a few of those. These are all 6-figure cars now. Doesn't matter, mild out, 6-figure cars.
Yep.
And you could buy a Supra Turbo in the 40s 8 years ago.
Yep. Oh yeah, and people back then thought, oh yeah, this is pretty crazy. Like, this is a lot.
Yeah, when they started getting back up near the 60, 70, 80 mark, we're like, okay, guys, it only sold for $65 US.
The R34 is the craziest.
Oh, that's a $500,000 car now.
Nuts.
And we had the option to, because I used to bring cars over from Japan, and we had the option, 15-year rule, in like 2011, 2012, to start buying them up and putting them in storage, waiting for a 2000 to become legal in 2015. I was like, I am not paying $30,000 US for these things. I was buying my R32 GTRs for $8,000 US. We all make mistakes.
Who would have guessed that, though? I mean, if you told me in 2015 that you could get an R34 in 2022 you couldn't get into one for less than $500,000 for a good one, I would think that you were lying, because there's not an ounce of that car that is worth $500,000. Not an ounce.
It's who coveted them, because I was going back and forth to Japan in the late 90s, so that was Godzilla. That was the car that everyone aspired to have. So whether you were from Japan, Australia, New Zealand, or you were one of the JDM fanboys in the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, that was the car. Now those teenagers are in their late 30s, early 40s, and they got the money, and they know it's an investment.
Another really good one too, I would say, is the S2000s have done insane. That's a little bit more modern than those. But yeah, a lot of JDM stuff, even if you get the domestic versions, I think a lot of them have appreciated quite well.
Well, the domestic ones are worth more when you come to something. If it was sold here, it's worth more. At a 07, I don't remember the color. It was yellow. The Integra Type R were Phoenix yellow. I don't remember what they called the S2000s yellow.
I know, I'm familiar with the color.
I drove my friends for a while. I had a beat up 03. But this one only had like 22,000 kilometers. And he wanted to sell it for 17, and I was like, I'll give you 15. He's like, no, I want 17. He ended up getting his 17. Now it's a $60,000 car.
Oh, at least.
Regardless how many kilometers are put on.
Yeah, they're amazing. Fantastic purchase. So, yeah, and once again, what does that boil down to? It's an analog car, has technology that won't be replicated by Honda ever. That car will never be made by Honda again. Same as Nissan will never make an R34 again. Same as Toyota will never make a Mark IV Supra. obviously the Mark V just lost so much of the character, I would say. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically a Beamer. You know,
it is a Beamer.
It is a Beamer, right? So that's the thing. It's just knowing what is desirable about X, Y, and Z, and is it going to be done again by that company? You know, Honda may make another S2000 variant looking thing, but guaranteed it's going to have a battery pack.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 3-cylinder. It's going to have a turbo, and it probably won't have a manual.
Guaranteed it won't have a manual. Now,
Yeah.
the manual is the thing that you have to produce on the side, or get another company like GetDrag to make it for you.
Yeah.
So you're adding $15,000 to the price of the car just to have a transmission,
Mm-hmm.
or you could have the one that you mass produce for $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
So
But even like, I had a good chat with a friend I've actually just met who's a big Porsche guy, and he was even saying, and because I'm not a huge Porsche guy myself, that every model now from Porsche is turboed. Every single model.
it doesn't make sense not to anymore. With what you're able to do with turbo technology, where you get the spool and you've got your torque before 2,000
Mm-hmm.
revs. It used to be a problem, like if you go back to the 70s and 80s, it took so long in the 911 turbos to spool up, and then it all hit at once. That's why everybody was dying. It was just like, I got 90 horse,
Yeah, whatever.
100 horse, 120 horse, up at $5,000, $6,000 hits. I got 300 horse,
Yeah.
and you're facing the wrong way over a cliff. But, and this is what the Germans have done very well throughout the mid 2000s, was especially a twin turbo setup. It's been incredible
Yeah.
that they're able to build torque from idle.
Oh, don't get me wrong. From a technology standpoint, it's amazing. From a Porsche enthusiast standpoint, you just lost your audience.
Yeah, we want manuals. I don't care if the PDK is quicker. I want a manual,
Yep.
and I want it to rev like crazy.
Yep. Well, why do you think companies like Singer exist? A Singer, if you guys don't know, is you show up with a
Sewing machine?
No. Wrong Singer.
Oh yeah, we already talked about
Yeah.
Honda.
Yeah. You got to show up with a 964 donor car, and then it's $1 million ish to build one, and it's a full carbon body with custom paint, custom interior. You get they used to do the 4-liter NA 6-speed manual, and it was essentially like what the perfect 911 was supposed to be.
Wow.
And Joe Rogan has one. A bunch of celebrities have them, and they basically swear by them as like the best driving machines out there. But that is the epitome of what Porsche was, you know, all their era. Like the 964 is probably the most iconic shape. And the 4 liters, the best power.
Oh God, yeah.
So combining that, you know, that's showing what the consumer wants. So, you know, perfect example, if you want to invest in Porsches, you probably can't afford a Singer. You can't afford certain makes and models, but at least just look at what's an analog car, because at least you know that if you're buying it, you're going to enjoy it and you want to sell it, you can sell it to someone else that's going to appreciate it from an analog perspective.
Yeah. Producer Mac pointed out the GR86.
Oh, yeah.
These, and I think they're overpriced, but they will definitely go up. They make, for the people who can get them out of the showroom, good for them. You know, they may drop off a little bit, but anything with a GR in front of it, like we got a friend who was offering, he started at $5,000 to anyone who had an allocation for the GR Corolla, and
That's a cool car.
it is. But he was like, if anyone out there, $5,000 over whatever your deposit is, I'll do it. And then he bumped it up to 10 just to have the first one in Edmonton. Now,
Wow.
I don't know if it ended up happening, but that's the point. But yeah, those 8.6s I can see going up 30 to 40% within the 5 years of ownership.
Well, and that's what we talked about for one point last time on our video, was you're either the first to the party or you're going to play it smart and you're going to wait. And that's the thing. You either get there early, you get the allocation first, you build a relationship with a dealership. When a new make and model comes out, you go buy it immediately, you hold it, you sell it, you do something with it. You can make money with that car pretty much regardless of what you do if you just play it smart.
Yeah.
The only alternative is, you're going to want to shop like 10, 15, 20 years old, find good specimens, good specifications, and like rare specs, and then hang on to that, maybe restore it a bit and sell it and market it correctly. But yeah, I think anyone can make money, even in that sub 50K range. If you're just smart, a Fox body, even you could probably get into a really nice Fox body, maybe fix the paint, clean it up a bit, low miles, market it correctly, drive it for a year or two, and break even or make money on it. I know those are going up in value. People really like the Fox body. don't necessarily know why. I'm not a huge Mustang guy, but I think you can invest in, anything. You just have to know all the variables, like you said last time. If you know all the variables, it's not really a risk. So
It's true. Were there any other points that you wanted to hit on today?
I don't think so.
So
We can kind of keep this one on the shorter side.
no, it was a lot of information. I think people, if they listen to this, maybe listen to it a few times so you understand what it is you're looking for as an investment. And again, the word investment doesn't mean it has to help you retire. Not losing money is also an investment. Have you ever heard the phrase, it's not what you make, it's what you keep? So even if you bought an $80,000 car, if you can get out of it for 80 to 90, 5 years down the road, that's technically an investment because you still need it to drive.
Yep.
Expenses are in there. So you got to always crunch the math. But we always come back to know your variables. The more variables you know, the less risk there is. So I think that'll wrap it up for today. Thanks again, Connor.
Pleasure.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate being here at Maserati. It was good.
So for Connor, I'm Chris. That's producer Mac. We're out.
Cheers.